She didn't scream when they dragged her by the hair, and that silence, the kind that makes a preacher look away, is the first thing I remember. The horses shifting, the dust swirling up. The sound of her not fighting back, just letting herself be pulled down the main road, barefoot and thin and hungry as a ghost. Folks in this town never used her name. Maybe they never knew it. Just called her the barren stray. Like that explained why she slept behind the feed store wrapped in a tarp, clutching some old bonnet she couldn't let go of, and today, I guess the town decided they were done pretending to be merciful, so they tied her wrist with rope and dragged her out for everyone to see, blood running down through her blonde curls. The sun so hot it made the jailhouse iron glow, and nobody lifted a finger, because in a place like this, sometimes the silence hurts worse than the rocks. At the far end of the street, these two little girls, twins, except one had a gap tooth and the other never let go of her doll, stood in the dust, not playing, just watching. Faces serious like they knew what it meant to be the odd ones out. And when the woman was nearly at the water trough, one of the girls stepped right in front of her and said, "You're coming with us." Not asking, telling. And all those men just stopped. Like, what now? And nobody laughed, not even when someone muttered the twins had lost their marbles. The twins just stood there, defiant. And the woman blinked, blood streaked across her face, one eye swelling shut. But she watched those girls like she remembered being that brave once, a long time ago, before the world ground her down. The girl with the doll loosened the rope, the other turned to the crowd and said, "She's coming with us now." Like that settled it. A man in the back moved forward, tall but not proud. Just big in the way a mountain is big, silent, faded coat, hat brim low. And he didn't ask questions, just crouched beside the woman, not offering help like charity. Just an arm to lean on if she wanted it. She looked at it like it was a trap, but the twins reached for her too, and something old in her chest flickered. She put her hand on the man's arm. Barely a touch, and he steadied her, lifting her just enough that her feet didn't quite drag, and together, man, widow, twins, they left the town behind. Judgment heavy in the air, but nobody daring to say a word. They walked all the way to a lonely cabin on a hill, where wild grass grew and a tired porch sagged and the chimney leaned. Inside, the girls built her a nest on the floor. The man gave her broth, and she cried quietly, salt sliding down her cheeks while the girls pretended not to notice. That night, someone covered her with a blanket and left a children's book by her side, worn and soft. She touched it before she slept, one of those deep, dreamless sleeps that feel like safety. The next day, her reflection in the cracked mirror surprised her, the swelling down, bruises going blue, and when the twins led her to the stream to skip stones, she laughed, just once, and covered her mouth quick, always giving her a moment she didn't have to explain. One evening, after the girls were asleep and he was out tending the animals, she slipped outside, sat on the porch steps, and just breathed the night. When he returned, he joined her, no words, and she finally whispered, "They'll ask why you keep someone like me here." He only said, "They don't get to answer that." And she almost believed it. You know, that's the twist. There's a difference between being tolerated and being chosen. She told him she couldn't give the girls what they needed. Not really. Couldn't be a real mother. Couldn't promise anything. He just said, "You're not a stray." And for a second, she almost believed that too. That night, for the first time, she lay down between the twins, one small hand in each of hers. She dreamed, hadn't done that in years, of sunflowers in the dust, of a baby's bonnet in soft hands, of someone saying, "You still get to belong." The cabin kept its own memories, corners worn soft not by comfort, but by survival, and when she woke to dawn's light slipping through the slats, the man handed her a faded shirt that had belonged to his sister. She liked bluebirds, the girls said, and the neighbor woman came by with apples, measuring the widow with sharp eyes and leaving her a basket for pie. It was strange, being looked at and not looked through. The girls made her a ribbon, left it on her pillow. The man saw. The first time she went back to town, shoulders squared, the twins on either side. The whispers followed her. The woman who couldn't keep a husband, who lost a baby. But the sharpness of it stung. That night, she sat outside snapping beans, telling the man, "They remembered what they think I was, not what I am." He picked up a bean, offered it back to her. "You're here. That's what matters." But at night, the old fears came back. The guilt, the shame, the voices that said she'd never be anything but broken. One night, she told the man, "They think I'll poison the girls." He shook his head. "They're wrong." She admitted she kept the bonnet because it was the last thing that said she was worth loving. "You don't need it to prove anything," he said. She realized she didn't want to give the town the ending they wanted. Her leaving, proving them right. "If I stay, you give yourself one," he told her. And that night, she tucked the bonnet away but didn't sleep. The next morning, she walked the twins halfway to town, knelt at the old fence post, kissed their foreheads, told them, "If anyone says anything unkind, you look at them like you look at the stars, far away, not meant to be touched." She watched them go, then turned not back to the cabin, but to the meadow. And for the first time, she realized the town would never stop naming her for what she'd lost unless she named herself for what she'd become. She hung the bonnet on a barn beam, no longer for mourning, just remembering. When the man saw, he smiled. And she realized sometimes you have to make peace with what you can't change before you can accept the good that shows up in spite of it. They found an old cradle in the loft, cleaned it up for the kittens and the twins, and that night, the man carved a sign, 3 birds, a ribbon, and the words, "New Nest." He asked before he hung it, and when she nodded, he nailed it above the door. For once, she didn't pull away when his hand brushed hers. The storm that came next wasn't just weather. Rain slammed the windows. The girls huddled under quilts. The man was outside getting the animals in, and when he came in soaked, she took his coat, hung it by the fire, touched his arm, and said, "You said if I leave, I give them the ending they want. I kept waiting for safety to find me. Maybe it's something you build, one small thing at a time." He said, "It's already here." She leaned her forehead to his chest, and for the first time in years, let herself believe she could stay. When the world washed clean, the neighbor traded apple preserves for stew, and the girls spun wild in the mud. She brought out the bonnet, said, "I don't need this for mourning, but I'd like to keep it for the girls. Maybe someday they'll pass it down, not for what we lost, but for what we claimed." The man asked, "What do you want to be called?" She watched the girls spinning in the sun. "Whatever they call me next." That night, they sat around the table, 4 chairs now, cradle by the hearth, kitten asleep inside it. The younger twin, mouth full of cornbread, asked, "Can we call her Mama now?" Everything went still. Her throat closed up. She looked at the girl, the man, the fire, the table. She nodded, and the older twin said, "Because she's already mine." She let the tears fall. Later, out on the porch beneath a sky stitched with stars, the man asked if she was all right. She leaned into him. "I think I'm home." And behind them, on the table, was a drawing, now with a 5th figure added. Someone had scribbled, "Mama." She hadn't drawn it, but she'd earned it. So what do you call a person like that? A stray? A survivor? A mother? Or just someone who, despite everything, built something real out of all that silence and pain? That's the question, isn't it? If you've ever felt like her, or known someone who has, let me know what you think. Is belonging a right, or something you have to claim, one hard day at a time? Drop a comment. Let's talk about what home really means, and who gets to define it.